And I love when they come, it's more work, and then when they leave, it's
The research is very consistent.
right.
The longer you play.
Maybe smoking, forget baggy.
Sitting.
Yes.
Sitting.
Oh, that's very bad.
Yeah, Claudia, it's ridiculous.
Good evening, it's 6:45. We're going to call the committee meeting, to interview the boards and commissions. First up, Kathy.
First up, we have Mr. Randall Huska, who is applying for the Board of Building Appeals.
You want to come up to the podium and kind of give an overview, name, address, and why you would like to be on this board?
Name is Randall Ruska. I live at 1026 Elmo Avenue. Nice to meet all you folks. Thanks for having me here. A little bit about me. Graduated from Kent State here a while ago in industrial design, advanced manufacturing. a lot of project engineering roles, mainly adding on manufacturing capacity, which involved a lot of building of buildings and buying equipment and machinery. Currently work for the federal government, Human Services Department, industrial base expansion. Like my background, needed some what they call subject matter experts. It's one of the reasons why I'd like to apply for this role for building and zoning, is to use my background and expertise to help facilitate and surrounding areas.
And we got questions? Gwen?
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for applying. We really appreciate it. It's important that the community get involved in our boards and commissions. So thank you. And I have just a two-part question. One is if you've ever gone before a appeals board, a zoning appeals board or anything like that in any community, this one or another one. And then the second one is what experience in your past can you draw upon and give us an example of a skill that you have to contribute or bring to this position based on your experience?
Okay, so for the first part, no, I have not been in front of the appeals board, but I have filled out a lot of the paperwork for plant expansions. Been involved with, a lot of meetings back and forth, local government and that I work for, dealing with those building zoning matters. Something in my background that is relevant. When I was living in Virginia, I was manufacturing manager, engineering manager, and also quality manager. And part of my role or duty was working with EPA. We had some hazardous materials at that plant, so I had to go through the process of getting the plant requalified and able to manufacture with the chemicals that we were using. Also go through the whole plant and make sure that we were following all the EPA and local for hazardous chemicals.
That's no small task. Great, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Seeing none, between what you said and what you filled out on your form, we'll talk about it and we'll make the vote on the 16th.
16th.
And thank you once again for applying it. Our boards and commission are very important to us, how we operate, and it's a plus for all of us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Sure.
Teresa.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Nice meeting you.
next, Kathy.
Next up, we have Kara Evans, who is applying for the Fair Housing Board.
Hello, my name is Kara Wolfgram Evans. I live at 990 Phillip Drive. I am currently employed at Summit County Juvenile Court as a guardian ad litem social worker. I'm a licensed social worker, and we work with children that have been abused and neglected and are in the foster care system. I have been in, we've lived here actually for just 4 years. Previously, we were in Franklin County where I was a caseworker there at Franklin County Children's Services. I am very excited to be here, and I think being on the Fair Housing Board would go really well with my social work degree and also in my background and having to work with people on both sides, like the families that I work with, and having resolutions come out of that.
Any questions, Gwen?
Yeah, thank you. Again, thank you very much for applying for this position. It's really important. We appreciate it. So my question would be, based on your experience, have you ever had opportunities to work as a group to come to a decision, whether it be on like a more formal board or committee or something like that, or something more informal, like a project or something that you had to work on with a group of other people to come to a final decision?
So, I used to be a field hockey coach, and I was for 20 years, and I was on the committee there in Columbus, where we did a lot of work. But I think really the thing that would apply towards this is we work with a lot of different people when we work with these families, we work with case managers, we work with people on the outside that have therapists, things like that. And I do a lot of team meetings in my employment where we have to come up with resolutions. What is best for this family? What is best for these parents? What is best for the children? And so I do a lot of that in my day-to-day work.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Chris?
Thank you for applying.
Thanks.
I'm curious how you would assess the state of housing in Kent, particularly for low-income residents, and what, if any, strategies, approaches are you excited to bring to the work of the board?
I think I think over the entire state, there's a lot of issues with housing and affordable housing for people. I think that what I would bring to that is coming from a social work perspective, as what people need is really important. And then also what is good for the people on the other end in making money and having sustainable housing for them to begin with. Not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, I'm curious to know a little bit more about this, how you would assess the specific situation here in Kent, and the issues that low-income residents are facing vis-a-vis housing.
I don't have any specific strategies in my head at this time, but I think one of the things about being a social worker that would help me is being able to take in different perspectives and putting those together and putting those forward with other people that have more knowledge specifically about actual housing and things like that.
Thank you.
Further questions? Robin?
Yeah, Karen, thank you for willing to serve. We certainly appreciate your application. What is your understanding of the Fair Housing Board function? What is the function of the Fair Housing Board? Your understanding of it.
My understanding is that it's a committee that would oversee any issues with residents and landlords, and working either towards solutions, helping people have affordable housing, and how we can move forward as a city to make sure that we are providing those opportunities for people.
Have you served on a fair housing
I have not.
board before?
I have not.
So your understanding is, do you think you act as an advocate? Develop overall housing plan strategies?
No.
Because that's a question you were asked. You didn't address that because you shouldn't have.
Okay.
I, quite frankly, was trying to get an understanding of that myself. You're going to be required to try to get as much background and understanding of the position. Are you willing to do the outreach and the education to get up to speed on that?
Absolutely. I'm not gonna sit here or stand here and say that I know everything about this committee, because I don't. And, but
You don't have to.
Okay.
We provide training and
Yeah.
you aren't expected to come into a board or commission with a complete understanding of exactly how to do everything and all the rules that apply. So that's,
okay.
there are certainly aspects of it, but I don't want you to have the impression that you're going to have to come in, hit the ground running and know how to do everything.
Yeah, Gwen's right. You know, this is a learning process. Even if you were sitting around here, you're going to learn for a while before you actually know how to engage
Yeah.
and actually bloom and bring out what you know there. So don't get upset
Okay.
about the training.
I'm very eager to learn. I'm very eager to be a part of the process and do whatever I can to help the city.
And that was my question.
Yeah.
Is whether or not you're willing to be educated about what this board function is, the type of outreach that you'll be doing to try to get up to scale on that. So,
Absolutely.
but they're right. Our expectation isn't that you come here ready-made and
Yeah.
formed.
Okay,
It's that
good.
you're willing to.
Absolutely willing. Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Between what you said and your application, we'll make a judgment
Okay.
and we're gonna vote on the 16th. And again, to you, thank you. These boards are very important to us. They're the foundation of our city. And thank you for applying and taking the time to apply.
Thank you.
Is Christopher Sifford here? Please come up. Mr. Sifford is applying for the Board of Building Appeals as well.
Chris Seifert, 1053 Kevin Drive. And yeah, I wanted to apply for a position in either the Park Service or this type of service with my 30 years of experience in facilities management. I've done many of environmental services and maintenance, as well as construction projects for retirement communities, schools, and now I work for Town Hall too.
Sure. So I'll ask you the same question from a previous candidate. So it's a two-part question. So basically, if you've ever gone before appeals board of some sort, whether in this city or another city, and then the second part is what relevant experience have you had in your previous life that would help prepare you for this role?
Oh, okay. No, I have not been in front of the board before for any city appeals or any type of situation or zoning situation. But I have, I guess the second part is I've done many drawings myself and been part of CAD drawings for buildings. Had to be in front of many inspectors, from state inspectors to the local fire inspectors of Hudson and Kent and Solon. So a lot of times I'm very versed on a lot of codes, whether it be NF, PA codes for life safety when it comes to fire alarm systems in our buildings, as well as just the safeties. I head up safety at Town Hall right now. So I think a lot of that, my background in construction, working with a lot of contractors, helping going through blueprints and redesigning as we need to see fit. That'd be a good fit for me to.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Further questions? All right, thank you. Fine between what you said and your application. We're gonna make a judgment. And again, we're gonna vote on the 16th. All right, no, thanks for replying. All right, moving on, Board of Control. tax budget 2026. I guess that's Rhonda. I don't see your name on my paper, but you look like money to me.
The 2026 tax budget, it's been prepared and submitted for this public hearing. With the request with the city council to approve and adopt as well today. Tax budget is prepared and submitted annually. It has to be submitted to the county auditor no later than July 20th. However, it has to be approved by council by July 15th. So the tax, it's just a tax hearing.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Does anybody from the audience have questions? Seeing none, the public hearing. Okay, moving into our committees. First up, we got the committee of the whole. Doing standing round table updates. So I guess
If it's okay, since this is new, so we've.
I was going to say that, Dave.
What's that?
Never mind. Go ahead.
It's right. It's not always easy, despite our small size. Information still doesn't always get to where we want it to be, I mean, including you guys. So we'll continue to do emails. We'll continue to do any kind of correspondence other than that in between meetings. So we thought that maybe this would be another way if we asked each department, as many that maybe had pertinent topics, not for a long, lengthy discussion, but really just kind of give you a quick, hey, you know, this is going on and I want you to be aware of, or we're really happy about this, or, you know, those kind of short synopsis, Reader's Digest, although no one reads Reader's Digest anymore. USA Today, no one US Today, you know what I mean, the condensed, quickie comments about pertinent things in this department. So let's see how it goes. We appreciate your patience, and in between meetings, if there is something percolating that you're like, hey, can you ask Chief or somebody to talk about this? Just drop me a note. We'll try to make sure that happens. So
Sounds pretty open. First up, community development. I'll bet it's Bridget.
Thank you. We have had a very busy month. So we went live on June 10th with our new permitting and licensing program. It's called Enterprise Permitting and Licensing, or EPNL. We've had 3 permitting programs since I've been here in the 17 years I've been here, but this one is all inclusive. It's electronic submissions of plans. Review comments are done electronically. Rental licensing, contractor registration, every permit, building, zoning is all being run through the system. It was a massive undertaking, as you can imagine. For every single permit, a workflow would have as many as 20 levels, because there's different people that look at different things. One project has to be looked at first by zoning, then we have to look at it for site, and then we have to look at it under building. And then showing the boards and commissions, it was complicated. It's going well. There's bumps, obviously, from the customer service end. It's called CSS, Customer Self-Service Portal. But overall, we are getting the permits. The fire department inspectors were able to get into the function called Bluebeam and actually make comments in their plans. We're doing a lot of checking. A form came out today that looked a little different, so we're working on that. But overall, we are very pleased. It was an investment of $280,000. So thank you, council and the city manager, for authorizing that. It really brings us into the 21st century and allows the applicant on the back, on the outside, and us on the inside to all be on the same page of where a plan is or an application. And also it makes it very clear to the applicant what is needed when they submit. So they're coming in with the right materials. We do have a station in our department, but we're encouraging everybody to do it through the system. So we're not doing old school paper anymore, but we'll work with somebody that comes in that doesn't have computer or maybe needs to be worked through that. Overall, though, the contractors and everyone seem to be embracing it. So we're pretty happy about that. We also had, I'm not sure if you are aware of this, you are aware of our housing rehabilitation program, but we also run an emergency repair lateral program. Gary Lavagetta, who's our utilities manager, often will run into a situation where a homeowner will call for a house check, or we will have a break on a main line and there is an issue found with the lateral. We actually had 3. It is very unusual to have more than 2 or 3 a year. We had 3 in 1 month. All of them emergency. 2 of the laterals were actually wide. They were tied in together. So if we separated the one, the other house was going to lose. We accelerated their income qualification using NDS, who's our development contractor, and I'm happy to report that all 3 laterals have been replaced. and they were all able to stay in their homes. That is a deferred loan. So basically the loans, they were averaged about 15,000 per. The line run for the laterals were short. We did have one earlier in the year that was actually 26,000. These all ran about 15. And it's a forgivable loan. So over 5 years, 50% is forgiven. And if they're there for 5 years, it's completely turned into a grant. If they were to move at any point before that, then it's proportionate to how many years were still left on the loan. 0% interest. So that was, I want to make sure you're aware of that. It is funded through revolving loan funds. So it's hit or miss when we get old loans that pay. I have enough for maybe one more lateral. I'm hoping that I get a loan pay up here soon to keep that project. Just when we get low enough, usually we get more funding. We also, if you remember last month, I had to accelerate applying, getting legislation for the CHIP grant. It normally that RFP is usually issued in February and due in June. They issued it in May. It is done. Got it in a day early. So pretty pleased about that. That's $250,000. And I already have 2 property owners on the wait list for that program. So we do run an ongoing wait list. We do have to re-income certify every 6 months. But if you have any residents in your area that you think may benefit from that program, it is for low to moderate income, which is 80% and below the area median income. So you can have them call me or Kaylin in my office and we can help them get on that wait list. And I'm going to tag on one more, even though I don't have it. Tomorrow, we are issuing an RFQ for a request for qualifications for a consultant to assist the city with a public-private partnership for the placement of a solar array on 800 Mogador. That site is for those of you that are unaware, it is an ongoing voluntary action program grant, which is run through the Ohio EPA, where the property owner is cleaning up the site. The project has been ongoing. We are in 12th year of the VAP system. I have a great working relationship with the owner, and since there are these legacy environmental issues, the placement of a solar array may work. So we're going to get an expert in here to look at that and help us do that. So I will be coming to you hopefully to get some agreements issued and signed. Thank you.
Is there any questions for Bridget? Heidi?
Yeah. On the emergency repair lateral program, is that also for low and moderate income persons?
Yes, yes, it is 80% and below the area median income, correct.
Yes. Small comment. I'm very happy about the solar potential for the solar array.
We've been looking at it and having discussions, and it would be a public-private with the city. So, and then of course we would have to get a provider, things like that. It's complicated, but I think we could do it. I will let you know, there are portions of that site that are current under active remediation, and there are other areas of that site that we cannot put anything on. On the south side, that elevated area, it's in a wall. It cannot have anything put on top of it, we're pretty sure, but we will have a consultant look at that because the RFQ is specific for a consultant to site it on a active brownfield site.
Yeah. So is it reasonable to ask for regular updates on this project?
The RFQ is going out tomorrow and they're due back in late July. I probably won't have much of an update for you until once we get into August, where the consultant's working with me. We have to meet with the property owner. She's actually based out of Massachusetts. It's an international company that bought the site, but she is very available and approachable. So I will definitely be keeping you updated.
Thank you.
Roger?
Yeah, Bridget, ballpark, let's assume the section can't be built on. How many acres do you think we would have buildable?
The site is 17.7 acres. Those are facts when I retire. I hope I don't remember.
Yeah, the fact that you remember it, that's impressive. So are we saying, so Bridget, are we saying 20% may not be buildable or 30%?
So that's why we need an expert.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's access roads that need to be maintained.
Correct.
They can be gravel in between. There's spatial orientation. The remediation is all subsurface. It's petroleum that's basically underground. So they have to be able to pump it out, rinse it. You'll see that equipment over there. There's monitoring wells. So it's hard to tell. There's also, this is the site that keeps giving. There is some chlorinated solvents in another area that We believe a solar array, because it doesn't go deep enough, can be there. But this is why we really need a specialized consultant. We know that we can put a solar array there, and we think it can be phased. That's another reason why it's important that the city, not a private partnership, because then it's going to be all about revenue. For us, it's going to be about basically lowering our carbon footprint and basically providing something that will benefit the city long term. So if we have to phase it through the VAPMOA process as a remediation, that will allow us to do it. But I do think a significant percentage of the 17 acres could probably be utilized.
Maybe 10 acres,
Probably more.
probably more?
Yeah.
Great,
Probably more.
thank you.
Further questions? Thank you, Bridget.
Welcome. Thank you.
Next up, Jamie, the fire chief.
At least he took his flip-flops off because he's been in the river. So
So I just wanted to come up and talk about the message of the hour, which is the river. Probably heard that we had a busy Sunday afternoon, 22nd. That followed 2 days previous to that, where there were some internal discussions within the city about posting some signage because we had had a very rainy week leading up to that. And we knew that the river was high and the current was moving very fast. So we had some signs put up with help of the service and parks departments where people would normally put in boats and kayaks, etc. We posted something on our fire department Facebook site because we have a very active water rescue team, both internally to the city as well as part of the bigger Portage County team. And then Sunday came and it was hot and the water looked very enticing to many, many people, more people than I would have believed. So at 1:42 in the afternoon, the on-duty crew received a call for 11 people, which I believe were, I forget the breakdown of 5 adults, 6 kids, or the other way around, that were a little southeast of the Middlebury boat ramp that had hit something under the water, flipped off their rafts, and what it was a downed tree that couldn't be seen because the water was so high. It was just almost, they were not able to navigate around it. And the current was pushing them so fast, they hit it before they knew it, and it flung them like a slingshot out into the water. So our internal crews to Kent Fire responded. We have an old ambulance that we've kept that we converted to a dive truck. We have boats, we have equipment. So we were out there and we pounced on it. We notified the greater team of Portage County, which has additional resources, and they were converging along with some adjacent fire departments. So we kind of overwhelmed it with manpower and equipment quickly. We ended up having 3 boats in the water filled with swimmers that I would call rescue swimmers. So they're in proper swift water equipment. They're part of the dive team. They have training. Those boats all have motors on them so we can quickly get from point A to point B. Took a stash of life jackets. We located these 11 people and quickly got them in a life jacket and safely back. But as we were doing this, we noticed it appeared to be a convention of people floating down the river as we're trying to rescue these people. And again, it must have just been super enticing with the heat and the water. And so I put out a press release after this was all done, which kind of highlighted some of the numbers because I really wanted the message to be out to people. Not just that we had this emergency, but it was important that people in our community knew. Maybe half those people weren't even wearing life jackets, you know, and we all know the tragedy that occurred in Cuyahoga Falls just a couple days before this, you know, so everything was fresh in our mind. Safety was of the utmost importance, which is why I put that press release out to get to the public. I will tell you that all the people that were coming down the river while we were doing the rescue were very cooperative. We were in verbal and visual contact with them because the river's not super wide. We could see that some folks were out of control. They were in maybe a floaty and they just didn't have the ability with the speed of the current to direct where they wanted to go. They're crashing into the side, flipping out of their inner tubes. Some folks were in kayaks, had their dog with them, stuff like that. But every single person cooperated with us. So I was very pleased with that. So we were out there about 3.5 hours. While we were way down there on the south end, we also got a rescue just by the dam under the West Main Bridge, which, to be truthfully honest with you, is where we go the majority of time, because the rapids are almost like whitewater rapids at times. Now there's very volatile water. And we found some gentlemen down there that ended up on that island. Just the way the water comes through that lock, sometimes when somebody gets washed out of their kayak or something, that's where they end up. And they've got water between them and the dry land they want to be on. So fortunately they were there. We were able to get the boats up from where Tannery was and safely get them out. So the final numbers, we were keeping track. We had 23 people all together that needed our assistance to get out. 2 dogs. We assisted through this whole process 28 more people that were on rafts. We had to send the boats out to get them. They weren't in danger, but they were out of control because they didn't have oars or a boat motor to steer them in the direction they wanted to go. No firemen, no rescuers were injured. In fact, if I recall correctly, I don't believe anyone in the public was injured either. There were some scrapes and bruises and stuff we could see on people, but everybody was, I'm going to say, no worse for the wear given what's occurred in Cotton Falls. So I put out a press release afterwards, again, so everybody would have an idea of what was going on. Out of that, there's been some comments. There has been some positive feedback regarding signage, and some of council may have seen that through some email chains. I want to assure you that we are heeding some of those good comments and trying to get the right message on the sign. One of the things that we were concerned about is local kayak companies. If they say this amount of water flow is a good, safe amount to be in the water, we don't want to give an overly conservative or inconsistent message with them. We want to be on the same page prior to making up signage. But I believe we'll hone this in, get the right signs out, get them in all the right places. One of the things that's come out of this is the possibility of a QR code. You know, that real time, I will tell you at the fire department, what we do every day is we have a QR code by our board assignment for all the crews that are working. And we check that. And the captain or lieutenant that's in charge for the day can see the Cuyahoga River in Kent, Ohio, what the cubic feet movement of the water is. I will tell you that today it's at 450 cubic feet per second. That's where we expect it to be. It's pretty safe. It was 1,600 cubic feet per second the day we had these rescues, just to put it in perspective. So, you know, we did have signs, we did have notices out, but there were still some people that I think maybe underestimated the power of the river. And those that didn't have the life jackets on really were taking some of their safety for granted. Fortunately, nobody was hurt here in Kent, Ohio. So we'll chalk this up to some lessons learned, hopefully, for members of the public, and some opportunities for us at the fire department to try to improve people's safety knowledge. One thing I talked about with a captain on our department, Dave Moore, he happened to be the captain in charge that day. And he used to be the dive commander for all of the Portage County water team. So he's very knowledgeable and experienced. We talked in my office about a couple members of our fire department doing a monthly trip to scout the river and locate hazards in the river. We have worked with Davey Tree before. They have some, what I would call experts in use of chainsaw and stuff. They've gone out with our water guys in the river as part of trainings and tried to clear some, you know, major tree trunks that create obstacles. And I know that the service department as well as parks has assisted in that. And, you know, we just can't clear every tree and we can't see every tree under there. But that's an opportunity for us to be on the river, for us to scout problems in advance, maybe people that are at the water have an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise take if they see us. They could come up to us and say, hey, I have a question. I've always wondered if this is the safest place for me to put in. You know, I think that's not a big ask of our department to try to do that throughout these times of the year, you know, when a lot of people traverse the water. So I think there's some internal things that we can be better at that will help the public. And then we're also relying upon the public to heed these warnings and just choose to do something different when the water's high and not as safe as we think it might be. So that's kind of where we're at, some lessons learned. Is there anything? anyone has-
Any questions?
I have a question. Does the city of Akron ever give you a heads up when they're letting water out of that dam up there?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, because that might be the biggest problem you have.
Yeah, they do communicate with us. Yeah, we have a good relationship with them, and they usually communicate a couple days in advance when they're going to do that. So we have an expectation that it might be higher. In this particular case, we knew we just had torrential rainfall for about a week leading up to it. And I think once the weather broke, it was 88, hot and humid and sunny. People wanted to be out, and that cool water had to have seemed very enticing at the time.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Health Department, Joan?
So I know it may be hard to get excited about mosquitoes, but I'm going to try to wrap this up with a nice little bow. Usually you come to talk about mosquitoes, maybe share some updates in August when we start to have pools or samples of mosquitoes that have turned positive for West Nile. This year we had our first sample turn in June, which is incredibly early. Multiple other health districts had the same experience. So we were all kind of astounded at the health department about that. And interestingly enough, when we were talking about how aggressive the mosquitoes were, we had not had any positive pools yet at that time. But coincidentally, we had Dominique come to one of our staff meetings, and she was sharing about how she was very excited about the movie night. And where she was having the first movie night, we knew that's where we had a lot of aggressive mosquitoes, and that we were trapping quite a few, so like in the 200s mosquitoes. So we, kind of collaborated a little bit and decided to go out and do a barrier spray the morning before. There was just enough time to get that done so that our hope was to try to knock down the population of mosquitoes so that everybody who went to the movie would have an enjoyable time. And thankfully that worked. The next week when we trapped, we only collected 50 instead of 200, but it was that we're always a week behind in terms of getting results. But it was that following week that we found out that Alice was the park that had the positive West Nile. So it was just really fortuitous that we were able to do that barrier treatment and have that data come back, after the fact, but at least we know we did the right thing. And I think that's what I really wanted to highlight with that program is that we try to work with all the departments. And I think that that's important. If somebody's having a program and there's something we can do to help, we want to be there to support that and, lift each other up so that we can all have success. So that's the little bow that I'm wrapping that up with. But if you have any, I know that there was a Facebook post that there was concern about when are we going to spray. We've actually tried to do some very thoughtful processing at the beginning of each mosquito season. How can we use our resources better? How can we use less chemical? We know people have concerns. We're still using the water-based chemical for the citywide spraying, but then we do barrier spraying. We also do larviciding because we do that early in the season to try to knock down the populations as much as we can. Interestingly, a beekeeper in Brimfield uses the same product we use for nighttime sprays around his bees to keep his bees safe. So I feel like if beekeepers are using it, it's pretty safe. We spray after dark when the pollinators are gone. And usually we're doing citywide sprays after all the lightning bugs have lived through their life cycle and they're not around anymore. But sometimes that lines up. So it seems like, oh, nighttime sprays, now I don't see lightning bugs anymore. Well, it's because they finished their life cycle, not because of the chemical. So constituents have any questions, please don't hesitate to have them call the health department.
Chris?
Happy.
Yeah, thanks, Joan. a question about the basic kind of epidemiology around West Nile. Can you talk about the populations that are most at risk for West Nile? And can you also talk about what we could sort of inform residents to do aside from relying on the barrier spray?
Standing water.
Standing water.
Whether it's kiddie pools, bird baths, I mean, hopefully nobody has any loose tires in their backyard, but anything that would collect water becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and we cannot get to every single one of those teeny tiny little pockets. I think it just kind of lined up again this year with the amount of rain we had. We could not do as much treatment as we wanted, but we were out there doing the larviciding. So, but I mean, anybody could be at risk for West Nile. So, but certainly people who are immunocompromised or people who are elderly, their immune system is maybe not as good, pregnant women, children, people with multiple conditions, it would be a concern. So, yeah.
Thank you. Further questions? Or dragonflies. I heard that dragonflies love mosquitoes. Thank you, Joe. Community engagement. Dominique.
Well, I feel reassured that no one has been positive with the West Nile after they gathered for our first movie night. But I am thankful for the health department and their willingness to help with that and be mindful of that. But yes, our first movie night was in Alice. We had probably over 50 people come, so it was really fun. It was a learning experience for me personally, just figuring out sound systems and stuff like that. But we are so fortunate to have a great business of Woodsies, so they're going to help me moving forward, so that that's not falling on me, who literally I don't know. So that was good collaboration opportunities. Our next one is going to be July 15th at 8 o'clock at Yakavona. We will have the health department out there again. They told me that they do that, so we're appreciative of that. The police and fire departments were out there with trucks interacting with kids. Joan was there also. She was the hit, actually. She had some cool games and interactive things for kids. So that was really fun to see people having some positive experiences with different departments here in the city. I'm looking forward to the next one, July 15th. And then second, this weekend is our big weekend in Kent, the Heritage Fest. I've heard nothing but great things in the planning, so we're really excited for that, to have everyone come downtown. But here, we're going to be doing our city hall tours from 11 to 2. So please, if you're free, stop by. Myself, Eric, and Patty will be doing the tours. We're really excited for that. We'll be giving away some free Kona ice. We're excited for that. Hopefully that'll tempt people to come down and it'll cool them down. And then we'll have also some cookies and water too. So share with people. We have stuff on Facebook, so share it with people. And if you need anything printed out, I can give that to you too if you want to pass things out. Then lastly, the new yard recognition program. So far we have had 4 people apply and nominate people, so that's fun to see people interacting with that. We've gotten some feedback about like what determines a beautiful yard. There's the wild year yard neighborhoods, right, or yard signs and stuff. So there's no specific thing that we're looking for. So if you can help spread that word that we want to celebrate all yards, and we really do want to see representation from different wards. So if you, as you're driving to work or driving around town, if you see a good yard, like stop by and tell them that, hey, I think you are worthy of nominating yourself, or get someone to nominate you, so that we can celebrate all the beauty in our neighborhoods and show our people that we're thankful for them. Yeah, so that's all I got right now.
Questions? Heidi?
Yeah, it sounds like you were inviting city council people to come and help with the city hall tours. Is that something that?
Yeah, I think I gave flowers were last time. So yeah, if you guys want to come, if you're able to come, that we would love that. This is your building. I feel like that's Melanie's slogan always, right? Like this is city council's building. Like if we want you here, if you can be here to show it off and hope that you're proud of it. I mean, I'm proud of it. I work here every day now. So, but yeah, we would love to have you here.
And I would love to be here.
Great. We'll see you there.
Further? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we had an addition tonight. 1.1.5.
Yeah, there's always one person, you know, there's always
We
one.
gotta do better at this, getting it on the agenda.
Well, there, we've got some.
Rhonda.
Yeah.
Podium's yours.
Okay, we've got some exciting news because this has taken us almost 3 years to convert, but we are finally converting to, or have converted to, our new utility billing software in-house. And it's been a long drawn out process. This week has been like our first week on it, getting the tweaks, you know, going through all the tweaks and making it better. On Monday, we start our Neptune 360 training, and that is part of the meter reading. And this is all bringing us into a much better user-friendly system, both internally as well as to the residents. At the end of July is when the residents will actually get to see the whole process, because we're converting to a new online portal as well. But that can't be implemented until we convert to make this conversion done, until we do actually one meter read, one billing cycle with our current Civica. Unfortunately, it's caused us to have a lot of issues with our current online portal. In fact, I think it was even down today. It's been a mess. But I'm actually so excited to see that this is getting done. And our utility billing clerk, she's been awesome. Tracy, she's been helping, like just jumping in head first. Like, she's been wonderful. We're also doing time and attendance, budget and finance, engineering, IT, and some of the city manager's office staff are piloting a new program for time and attendance, which is related to our payroll software. This is going to get us into the 21st century of time and attendance. We will no longer have to fill out forms. It'll be more efficient to approve time. There's going to be scheduling. Eventually, we're going to, every single month or a few weeks, we're going to be adding a different department on and having it so that the entire city will be on the same scheduling. So at some point, police and fire are going to also join. 2026 audit budget, or annual budget for 2026, it's been sent out to all of the department heads to start working on their 2026 budget. Give us our recommendations. But I'm excited. You have in front of you our 2024 annual financial report. This was submitted to the state auditors and to the Government Finance Officers Association. I love the picture. We, took down the picture and put it on the cover. So for your reading pleasure when you can't fall asleep at night. We're hoping that we get the award again for their certificate in excellence in financial reporting, and also the state auditors award.
Questions for Rhonda? Okay, thank you. That's it for the committee as a whole. Moving into committee development committee. Gwen?
Yeah, before we do that, I just want to say I really like the roundtables. I think it's a very efficient use of time, and I appreciate it, because getting a phone call from 9 people, all asking some different version of the same question from our department heads, is not the most efficient way that anybody should communicate with city staff. So I really appreciate Dave putting this together so people can have a chance to share some of the things that some council people hear, but not all do. So thank you for allowing me to make that comment out of order. I appreciate it. All right, Bridget, I'm the chair, right? All right, Bridget, we've got amendments to outdoor seating program guidelines.
I had Eric put the memo together, but I asked if I could present it because I've got the history on the program. So for those of you that may not be aware, the outdoor seating program has been in place since 2012. And for those of you that remember Mr. Burbick, his development area was done before the portion that the city did. And we had a gentleman who sold soup, and I am not exaggerating. We called him the soup Nazi from Seinfeld because he was incorrigible. He really was. It was almost comical in a way, but it wasn't. And one day he decided he was going to put out Adirondack chairs and a picnic table. Phone in community development rang off the hook because people, there was an active construction site to the south on Erie. Ron's place had been redeveloped, so members of the public wanted to enjoy that, and we're throwing them into the street with construction vehicles. So it was a bit of mayhem. So Dan Smith was our economic development director at the time, and I said, Dan, we need to formalize outdoor seating. We need to kind of come up with some rules. We got to make sure that people can walk past them. A wheelchair can get past them. So we coordinated with Jim Bowling on 5 feet clearance, and every year the economic development staff person director goes out, gets a certificate of liability insurance, basically holding the city as duly insured. They show the configuration of their tables, and they're instructed that they need to be up against the building. So we were looking at those guidelines because we've had a few establishments go a little big with those tables. So we're working with them, and next year I told Eric that we're going to actually ask them to give us a picture of the tables they want to put out before they actually purchase them. We had a very large picnic table that someone brought to my attention that was actually blocking quite a bit of sidewalk. So we're working on that, and we will do a little more due diligence with pre-planning with each person, a business before they put tables out. But through that process and looking at the guidelines, we noticed that back in 2012, doors didn't exist. The state of Ohio didn't even have doors until 2015, and we prohibited alcoholic drinks. Well, that's a problem because most of these outdoor seating tables are in the door boundaries. So if you look at the amendments, it's basically to remove that restriction and allow those to be served and so that people can sit outside. At the time, though, really, we had to go through liquor control. Liquor control was pretty stringent about they had to be cordoned off if they were outside patios versus this. So we want to remove that. And also, if you remember last year in 2024, we adjusted the noise ordinance to allow for music outside. This was in relation to the bands at the Zephyr. We also had an issue actually with they're not there anymore, but it was the hamburger place that's now, Lounge 145, but they had a very loud acoustic guitar outside on their on their tables. So that's why we had that rule, but we'd like to remove that as well to align with the ordinance. So really these are just amendments to bring it current with other ordinances that have been adopted by council for 5 years.
All right, questions from council? Yes, Heidi.
I'm looking at number 12. I didn't realize that we prohibited all outdoor seating, sidewalk seating during festivals. Is that something that they're made aware of, and so they have to bring their tables, chairs in off the sidewalks,
Yes,
even if there's an enclosure?
Well, an enclosure is a patio, so that would not be applicable. This would, and I'm just going to Scribbles. They have tables out, those small tables. So now, of course, Heritage Fest doesn't really go down that far, so for them it wouldn't be an issue. But if there was anybody that had outdoor seating tables, if Water Street Tavern had them, or someone in where we have it cordoned off for Heritage Fest, it creates an obstacle on the sidewalk, and actually we don't want that. So that's it. Now, if it's a specific event that is elsewhere. So we're discretionary on that, but we also did have people leaving tables out that first year at Heritage Fest, which is why we actually added that. So much of this is from experience, as all good regulations are.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's discretionary too.
Yeah.
Any further questions from council? No? Anyone from the audience have any questions? Right. Back to council.
I would like to make a motion to authorize these changes with the emergency clause.
I'll second it.
All right, discussion.
Yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate that you review these. It is kind of housekeeping and keeping, getting everything to square together, but it's kind of the mark of a progressive city, I think, that we go, oh, look, we have a Dora now. This is kind of antiquated. And I thought that when we did this originally back in 2012, it was a way to promote the outdoor seating, to make that sense of vibrancy. And that vibrancy has changed, but I mean, it's changed, I think, for the better in the sense that now we have the Dora and, people really take advantage of these opportunities, and it makes our city, it improves our city. So thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Bridget, I think you hit the nail on the head. Legislation is always evolving, and I think that a lot of times we think things are set in stone. We pass legislation and we think, well, it's going to be like that forever. But the reality is that times change, and I think with the advent of Dora, this is a good example of why we have to change. There are other examples though, so I think this kind of sets the standard of how we do look at our legislation and see if it's effective for what we want to do in our city. So thank you for making that effort.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion
Thank you.
passes. Thank you, Bridget. All right, Eric is coming up with a continuation of designated outdoor refreshment area. Also known as.
I'd like to first state that this is also just a housekeeping item. So the Ohio Revised Code 430182I1 requires that 5 years after the date of the creation of a designated outdoor refreshment area, the legislative authority of the municipal corporation that created the area shall review that operation by ordinance or resolution, approve the continuation of the Dora, or dissolve that area. So I'm just here tonight to ask council to approve the continuation of the Dora with emergency.
Any questions from council? Huh? All right, any questions from the audience? All right, back to council.
I would like to make this motion
I'll let you.
So I would like to move that we renew the Dora with the emergency clause.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Yeah, I think we were one of the first communities in the region, it seems, to have jumped on this idea of the Dora. I remember being contacted as the Ward 5 person with most of downtown in Ward 5 saying, what do you think about open containers in downtown? You think that would work? And, it was the economic development director at the time. And I just thought, oh my God, that sounds like a great experiment, but not really knowing whether that was going to work out or not, because, we've got this reputation a little bit with being a college town, maybe a little bit too much party. And it's really, it's been shown that people have not, by and large, abused the policies. And I think it's just been a real enhancement of our downtown vibrancy. So I would like to see it stay in place.
Any further discussion?
Since I seconded it, I think it's really a unique opportunity for people of all ages. I think Heidi hit the nail on the head where it used to be thought of as, college age kids going down, drinking and everything. But one cannot fail to see how you see old people like me, and we're hanging down there, and there are young people who are younger than my own children who are almost in their 50s. So I think it's a unique way of bringing the whole community together. And I think behavior, this is just my take on it, I think the behavior is better when you do have a variety of people of all ages and coming from all parts of the city. I think it just naturally tends to help people using common sense. It's not, a lot of times it's uncommon, but I think in this case, common sense seems to prevail. And I hope that continues.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay, Finance Committee's up, Mr. DeLeon.
Staff report, I think Melanie, huh?
Well, she's setting up. Let me kind of set the framework or the context for what she's doing. So she's gonna be one of three, we ended up on 3 or 4 staff departments that between now and when we actually finish our budget and kind of bring it back to you towards the end of the year, which Rhonda already said we're working on, which we are. Well, we have 3 or 4 sort of bigger needs that probably won't fit the way we've traditionally done our budget, which is pretty much deliver you a balanced budget. Don't you worry, we got it. And part of that's because we were super conservative, fiscally conservative. Remember, I came here when I was hired, it was like the Great Recession and we were freezing positions, eliminating positions. And it's been really hard for me because we survived that and we came out on the positive end of that. But even as we've seen stuff ramp up, it's still been, I have a hard time letting go of that. But here's the thing, you can save or cut yourself into irrelevancy too. And you can, at some point you're only kidding yourself if you're actually able to deliver services or not to the level that's expected in the community. So we've got 3 or 4 areas, broadly, street maintenance, first category, that's up tonight. Let me just say, we're not asking for decisions on these. This is stuff for you to think about, receive, give us some feedback, give us more feedback as you think more about it. I mean, if something is super exciting to you and you want to go ahead and make a motion now, we're not telling you no, but that's not the point of this. The point is to give you time to digest it in anticipation of the budget. First one is street maintenance, and there's actually a whole bunch of layers to that one. So that's probably our biggest area to kind of look at. And there's, it's like a vending machine. You can have option A, option B, option C, option D. There's a lot of different ways because the streets are a big challenge. And we already tackle them in many ways, but there are things we could do differently, but things we could do more of, things we could change. You're going to hear some, and there's things that go along with the streets, which we're proud of. We do sidewalks and streets together. But at least we want to make sure, reaffirm that that's how you want to continue it too, because I've heard people say we need to spend more money in streets. Do you want to take that away from something? Do you want to take away from sidewalks? Do you want to take away from social service funding? Do you want to take, or do you just want to dig into our funds and pay more? So again, we're fiscally conservative. We really are. We're a liberal town, but we're fiscally conservative. Trust me. Rhonda is she has literally the words no multiple times on her wall. So that's her first. And it is, like I said, it's kind of in our DNA. We're not a rich community. When I started here, we did a year-long fiscal study. We appointed a team of local bankers and accountants, and I had to meet with them. And we went through, I have a 3-ring binder still to this day of the analysis we did on our budget and what we could do better, how we compared. Some of the most interesting stuff was the benchmarks. And trust me, we were at the bottom when it comes to wealth in our community and our income tax. And now, we were always good stewards. Council's been good stewards of money, so we had some money saved. But you can't pay salaries but once with money saved, right? You got to be earning that income. So the whole theory behind and the pitch behind the downtown was build an economic engine. One, dig us out of the hole we're in and actually allow us to do the things that don't pay for themselves, like street maintenance and social service funding and grants that's like the sewer grants that Bridget just talked about. All those things, they don't pay for themselves, right? So that was kind of the modus operandi for a long time, like constrain. I think we're at the point now, the departments and I all feel this way. We've got to make some choices to do more. The good news is we've never had more reserves in our history. So we've done a good job. The downtown platform of economic engine is working, as well as our super partners with Davey Tree, they're growing. So we've had 3 successive years of income tax growth that when you take the total for those 3 years, outpaced any 3-year period in our history. And that's not, remember, we started the redevelopment in 2012. People like to think, hey, well, you had your heyday in 2012, 13, 14. Believe it or not, our heyday has been the last since 2020. I know that sounds weird. We're still trying to sort through it because things did change on us. The traditional engines for us did decline. Kent State from 40% of our income tax down to 26%. And yet the totals are going up. I think Rhonda could talk to business profits as a percent, they're bigger than they've ever been. Of course, Davy Tree, but we've had a lot of other positive economic stories that don't necessarily mean the downtown, but I think the downtown plays a part in it, right? Because the community, the businesses want to be in a community that has that kind of downtown. So I guess the idea is it kind of worked. The theory that we rolled the dice on, we're going to take our savings back in 2008, 9, 10 and invest it in something we think will produce a yield down the road. Well, I think we're at that down the road now, and we need to revisit. So we've got better income taxes than we've ever had, and we've got more in the bank. So I'm a little more comfortable to say, I think we need to expand. You know, we have real staff capacity issues. Chief gave a great presentation about the fire department. Well, he could also give a presentation on how much overtime he's spending because his staffing is too tight. Same with the police. Police is the exact same way. Melanie too. You know, streets is a super point of pride, but as I think you've heard before, the way the crews, we're not a big enough city that we have, you're the sewer crew, you're the water crew, you're the street crew, you're the sidewalk crew, you're the stormwater crew, you're the lead, you know, I mean, go down the list and the problem, and the leaf collection crew, no, they all do it. And so they do their best. And I have to say, I'm really proud of Melanie and Brad and Gary. They're in the back there, although they look like they're on a cruise or something. No, seriously, all joking aside, they've done a really good job. Melanie has come in and kind of, you know, in a very friendly way, working with her lead staff, changed the culture, created more accountability in the outcomes. We've always wanted to have great streets and great infrastructure. But I would say we weren't always optimizing the limited resources we have. And so part of the challenge for us was, hey, before we start asking for more, I want to make sure we're optimizing. I don't, you know, we can always do better, but I mean, the big gaps in my mind, we've kind of done those things. They've made the changes to optimize, and they've got more. They got things in the pipeline that they're already thinking about doing it. A lot of what you'll hear, and you've heard some of it already, we're going to go a lot more automated. And even in our sheet, there's even a software platform that tracks potholes and can have maps and can have, you know, the same kind of wording that you heard Bridget talk about. You can do it online. It can flag things. It gets sent right to the staff. It'll track the time that's passed. So they're already doing a lot of that, but less automated than we would like. So the good news is I feel like I can look you in the eye and say, they've optimized and the plans they have in place will continue to optimize, but it ain't going to be enough. They're going to need more. So my question to you is, what more, how much risk are you willing to roll the dice on with the future of income taxes? Because what we're talking here in all the cases is going to be staffing. We need to expand. It's going to be anywhere from, depending on where you land, $500,000 to $2 million in new staffing. It's a level of risk in there, right? If at the low end, if you want to stay safe, you pick an option that's going to have $500,000 to the budget. Medium, maybe it's $1 million. We're going to give you better numbers one of the things that Rhonda and I are working on is sort of, hey, this is the money we think you could safely be looking to allocate. All things being equal, knowing as much as we can in terms of what the future of the economy holds, what our future local businesses are going to do. But based on trends and history and savings, and we think if things did turn south, we've got enough savings to give us some time to recalibrate and figure something else out. And so this is the first of a series. Each month we're going to have one of these sort of bundles of $500,000 come before you. Fire, police, Parks and Rec. And Angela's right over her shoulder too. The other one we have talked about is figuring out a way to support Parks and Recreation financially. She gave you some of her numbers on the cap plan and stuff. That factors into all this. So yeah, it's going to be an extended budget. You're basically starting your budget right now. It's just, we think it's imperative to start to address some of these needs because we don't want to get too far behind. And we think we've positioned ourselves to be able to make some of these changes without undue risk. I mean, everything's a risk, but I think it's without undue risk. So sit back, absorb. ask questions. I know streets are really topical. We all drive on them. We all see them. We potholes, and categorically, if she's not going to say it, I'm going to at least introduce you to what categorically what we're talking about in street maintenance. You've got Jim Bowling big paving program. So that's the great news about that is that's one-time cash each year, right? And also great news, city has a 25% charter requirement to set aside money for streets and all our other capital needs. And as our income tax has gone up, that pot has gone up too, right? Because it's 25% of a bigger pot. That's why we've been able to go from when I started here, we put $350,000 a year in street paving. Now we're up to 1.2 to 1.5 million. So that program, because we knew we wouldn't, if the sky fell in on us, we just wouldn't do it the next year. Whereas when you have people on payroll, you still got to do that next year. So we were much more willing to put more money into that program. But that program is really specific. That is the worst of the worst. That is long stretches of pavement that are milling, a lot of times restoring sub-base, because we have a lot of older streets. We have a lot of streets that were in the township and county at one time that just weren't built to our specifications. So a lot of the stuff that you see deteriorating out there, it's kind of no fault of our own. It's just what we've inherited. And so that's the big program. And we can be proud about that. Jim has stood before you when he does his capital update, and he's showed you the graphs, how much more we do, and his pavement condition index, and it went up and now it's starting to dip. And that's why we're jumping back in this conversation. But the other piece of it is, well, in between Jim's program, because he can only do so much, $1.5 million sounds like a lot of money, but it doesn't go that far. I mean, I think his number is something like, yeah, you know, you should be repaving streets every 20 years. We're probably on a, I don't know, 70-year cycle or something based on the funding level, 50-year. Okay. So even though we've tripled that money, we're still never going to be able to keep up with that kind of need. So what that says to us is, well, until we can get every street in that program, we need to be doing what we can to prolong the ones that are already deteriorating but aren't going to be on the list for 10, 15, 20 years. That's where central maintenance comes in. They do the smaller jobs. They don't do full depth repairs. I mean, they sometimes, if they have to, they would do some limited stuff. But again, those are smaller. And on a given day, well, we're going to do the paving over here. Wait a minute, we had a water line break. Wait a minute, we had a sewer line break. Crane Avenue a couple of weeks ago had exploding sewer. And this is peak paving season, right? And yet they're dealing with some flooding issues. They're dealing with the storms that came through, and they do brush collection. They go send their crews back around. They try to do that. And not the least of which has taken a lot of time this year, fiber optic in the west side of town. They have damaged a lot of our lines and just caused some cleanup issues for us. So again, these are all opportunity costs. There's only one chunk of them, and when you start pulling them to this issue, that issue, this issue, and not making excuses, but literally the number of things that they're responsible for has grown, but their staffing levels have not changed in my 20 years. I mean, so that's kind of the big picture backdrop to why you're hearing this conversation tonight, where we're going with it. That's pretty much, I probably said more. Melanie's like, would you please wrap it up? I want to talk. So,
well, I was just going to ask you.
Have anything else to add?
I was just going to ask you if there was anything else you had to do. Okay, Melanie, now you can go.
First off, I would like to ask you guys know Jim Bowling, the facilities manager. And these are really the two gentlemen that do that central maintenance side. With 24 staff, it's hard to get to everything. And amongst all the things that Dave mentioned, in my 9 years, I'm still the newbie here, but in my 9 years, I have seen the EPA take us to turning valves. We have 80 critical valves that have to be turned every year. We have a total of 120 valves that have to be done every year, so that we're rounding every one of our valves within a 5-year period. In addition to that, we've had to remove lead service lines as a part of that as well, and that's in-house. We've just recently started trying to do some of that outsourcing it, so that we could lessen that burden on our crews and allow them to get to other things. It's one thing when we do stuff inside, we forget that it takes us a little bit longer sometimes when we don't have all all that equipment that we need. And so while it's great, it's not too bad on the pocketbook. The problem is other things aren't getting done. In addition to that, we do all of our markouts and our OOPS locates. It's been overwhelming this year with the fiber optic that has come in, overwhelming. In addition to that, then we also have shut-off notices that have to go out every month. And that's an unfortunate thing, but it's also a process that it does. And sometimes that can take as many as 3 to 4 men all day long, depending on how many we have. So those are just a few things, not to mention all the water main breaks, the leaks that we've had, the valves that have been broken, the fire hydrants that need repaired. Again, you mentioned everything from brush chipping to maintaining. We have an arborist. We have street trees that need to be maintained. So we have crews that we have trained that go out and do those kinds of things. So there's just a lot of pull, I would say, on our department. We're blessed. We have many, many very talented people. We also keep the downtown. This year, I'm hoping I'm going to good. I'm seeing a good nod. We have really put a lot of effort into that this year. And I really have to thank those men and women that are doing that work. I'm super excited. I have one that's super stoked about the whole thing. So he's coming up with some great ideas for that as well too. So I'm like, woo, keep thinking, man. But again, just something else that takes us away from doing those things that, you know, we do feel is important. So the one thing we're going to focus on tonight is we had a bad winter. Anybody notice? We had a lot of snow, a lot of salt, a lot of freezing, a lot of thawing. We had a lot of damage to our roads this year, and we've been desperately trying to keep up with them. I did a quick review. We had, as of June 15th, I believe it was, from January 1 to June 15th, we had 176 recalls and reports and or work orders in our system for asphalt repair. And that's about 136 of those to about 140 were specific to potholes. We've been able to address 100 of those. We're still trying to get out to finish that up. But again, we get pulled for different reasons for different things, and then that crew has to go somewhere else to do it. So having a dedicated crew, which is what we're really think we help to take us to that next level, is make sure that we're keeping all of our resources completely active. All right, there we go. Gotta love new technology, right? So as Dave said, we're gonna hone in and assist at any point if they want to throw anything out to me. We're gonna look at 4 basic things. Street repairs, and specifically looking at a street repair crew. Summer overtime for pavement work. Capital program, what are capital program, current thoughts for the future, and then upgrading our new world work system.
Yeah.
So what we're looking for specifically for a street repair crew, these would be 3 individuals we recall would we need: a repair operator, so somebody who's in charge of the crew, a service worker, and a laborer. We feel that those 3 that would be dedicated to this would be dedicated year round. They would be able to take care of things basically January through December, going through all of those different seasons. So April through October is our prime paving season. So we would be able to address things, do partial depth repairs, make sure that we're getting our water break repairs taken care of, our larger potholes, where there's either multiple in a row or larger ones taken care of, and then doing long stretch repairs as well. During October through November, we'd be able to then begin to prepare ourselves for the winter. So areas that we already know might be weak, whether we add some crack seal to that or we do some things of that nature, we'd be able to get out ahead of that one. And then November through March, we'd be doing the typical pothole repairs, which could be anything from cold patch to hot mix. It all depends on weather, season, timing, all of those things. I wish it was easy that we could just put a tent, superheat everything, you know, get it all fresh, but that's just not how. We believe that we can work with this crew and come up with some great ways. We were progressing through this, and just a little history too. We actually started doing some of these initiatives and actually looking at this 3 years ago. In-house central maintenance began to set up 3 people at a time when we could do that, and began experimenting We have in-house equipment to take care of some of this stuff. It was ordered many, many, many years ago by this team. But what we discovered is that they weren't following through with the program because some of them were just too small. We have an 18-inch milling machine, and then we had a 40-inch roller. So in order to be able to make sure that the roller was advantageous in being able to use it, we would have to mill 3 times in order to get us wide enough. Otherwise, the roller just laid on either side of whatever we milled out. So they've been renting one this year. They don't want to purchase something that they're not certain is going to work for them. So they did that 2 years ago. How we used to pick up those millings by hand with a shovel broom. They actually rented a piece of equipment that was able to be attached to our skid steer. So for relatively low cost, I think it was $7,000 to $10,000. They purchased that 2 years ago, and we've been using that. So again, efficiency and function. They realized we needed to get better, faster, and quicker in order for this to become successful. So that's what they've been looking at. We would then take this opportunity in those summer months to work with the engineer to take a look at our PCI ratings and be able to sit down with them and show them where our problem is. I think sometimes that gets missed. We had an area in town that we just performed, Cuyahoga Major Stennis. I think we had more Band-Aids on the line than we actually had real line. It was comical every time they went out. But the reality of it is, you know, engineering would not necessarily be aware of that if we weren't communicating. And that's a beauty that we do have with this, whether it's Gary communicating over to Jim or to our engineer at that level, our senior engineer for water, they're making sure that we're communicating in those ways. And this is something, just another area that we feel we need to up to.
I know I've exceeded my quota for talking, but I want to mention, just because I assume most of you are not public works directors or service directors, but one of the things that may not be evident, but it goes to what I was saying earlier, and it goes to what she just said. There's been an improvement in the sort of sophistication and professionalism that's being brought to the repair. And, you know, in the industry, there are places that get chided for just dump and run, meaning, yeah, you got a pothole complaint. Okay, I'm going to toss a, fill it, not roll it, just maybe I'll drive the truck over it and go to the next one just to check that off my list. And sometimes that's needed. Like, I'm sure if Brad gets a call at midnight that there's a huge gaping hole that just formed, he might dump and run. But what's been different is we did a lot more dump and runs. These guys have said, that doesn't do us any favors. What we need to do, and that gets to her point, we need to actually do some milling and square it off, cut beyond just that little hole, square it off, do longer lengths, and then come in and compact it in layers, get the roller on it. All of that takes time. And so one of the dilemmas is, and that's partly why we're here tonight, we're going to do it better, but because we're doing it better, we're slower. But we're getting it right. And in the long run, that'll pay off. But in the short term, it feels painful because the list of pothole requests are growing and we can't necessarily keep pace, right? So it's a little thing, but it's not so little because it'll pay for itself in the long run if you do it right. The old adage, do it right the first time. Your parents would say, if you just did it right the first time, you wouldn't have to go back and do it again and again. And that's really very true in this particular field.
So this is just a quick look. You guys have seen these, you've driven through them, you've driven over them, but depending on what size of hole is, depends on what we do. You know, small single holes, we do put it in, we try to tamp it down, make sure that it's taken care of, and then we move on to the next one. Bigger one takes us a little bit longer. And then unfortunately through town, that last picture there, we have a lot of that. That for us is our worst nightmare because first 3 might be what's broken, then the 4th one gets done, and by the time we fix that 4th one, the other 3 are back open for us. And so those are our long stretches that we like to make sure that we're taking good care of in the summer months and taking that time to mill it all out, get it taken care of, and get it done. Right. These are just, again, you've seen us out there doing it. That's the original first hole. Put it in, we try to tamp it, try to get as long as we can when we're using cold patch during the winter, but sometimes it's exactly that. We're just chasing our tails. We're right back out to it, do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Then you've got the hot patch. And then I'm sure if you've been through town, that's Akron Boulevard. This is actually West Main Street there with the larger squared off cut. We will seal every one of those seams or every one of those connections where it comes up to the road because that's imperative to make sure that we don't have a problem in the future. But these guys are doing a great job for not being neighbors are very talented. The total cost for 3 new people and the materials that we think will be, we're in about the $450,000 range. And that is a repair operator, the service worker, the laborer, and about $100,000 in material, we think is what will cover us as we continue. One of the other initiatives that we've already started this summer is that we've begun to do some overtime. Working later hours during the week so we can get more milling done. We're ready that way that during the week when asphalt's easier to get a hold of because larger projects are taking place, we can go ahead and get those filled in. We don't like to leave streets open for long because then you ruin your edges and you have bigger problems. So they're doing a great job with that. But we're also going to do some stuff on the weekends. We can do actually the sealing of the edges and the cracks that are out there so that we're maintaining that life longevity. But again, this is where, I commend both Brad and Gary on this. They've been able to pull their chief operators to come together and talk about what are some of the out of the box stuff that we could do that's really going to help us with this program. And what they actually said, and this is a great idea, we do roadside mowing. That takes a lot of time. But if we could do that maybe on Saturdays, we'd be able to get that longer. Those people that are doing that roadside on Saturday and Sunday can now move over to this crew and be more valuable during the week to make sure that we're getting these things done in a timely fashion and covering that time. So again, we come together as a team. And I found that we're strong as one, but we're definitely stronger as a group. We're definitely. The capital street and sidewalk program, as Dave mentioned earlier, and I think this is really important, it's streets and sidewalks. So we do a lot of concrete work with that. And again, the 1.2, 1.5, 1.8 million plus. But if we take half of that, because usually our concrete works between a third to a half, that's $750,000 just in that. $750,000 in asphalt doesn't quite go as far as it has in the past. Again, we do a great job with the staff that we have to put that together. But one thing that we did change this year from my past years is we actually put it all together in one contract. In the past, we've done them as separate contracts. So what we found is that we were always lagging. If the first contractor didn't get his curbing done in time, we couldn't quite go out for that asphalt work. And then it seemed to always push us back. One of our biggest things was our chip and seal. You can't do that after September 1st. And so what we were finding is sometimes we were bidding that in October and carrying it over to. So that would leave those roads that might have been taken care of maybe the year before or that year completely exposed. And it needed to be covered. So we put everything under a contract this year. We went out in February, opened in March, awarded in April. Contract will be done in September. He's actually ahead of schedule right now. We're about 60% completed with that, and I'm super excited. That's everything from the curbing to the sidewalk to the actual asphalt. Under one contractor, I think you can gain a little bit more control. You keep everybody together, but again, it depends on how much we're going to do and what is important on those things. So, we'll be putting together some work and maybe some suggestions and maybe a little bit more money. Is it 200,000? Is it 250 for that capital? We're uncertain yet. So one of the other items that we really desperately need is we do need some help and oversight on that as well. We have one person in staff that's a great inspector on this, certainly can keep track of it. The project's just gotten too large for us to take care of with that one person. So we do need some oversight. So we'll probably be looking at hiring an outside firm to assist us with that. So again, we're going to be looking at a cost to improve that program somewhere, is it going to be between 200, 250, 300? It's yet to be determined as part of the capital planning. You'll hear us talk about it again then. And the last item is our public works management software. We're super excited. Nick's been great to work with. He's come up with a lot of things. You heard about time and attendance. That's been really cool. We just went online for Thank you. Seems like it's going well. It's a great process. I think once it's in the full drives of it, it's going to be super, super sweet for you guys, keeping things rolling. Well, we see the same need in our division. Again, Jim and his great ability to look ahead knew how important GIS is to his department specifically, but to us as a city as well. And so we're going to we started actually 2 years ago, putting together some GIS. We hired an engineering tech that had some background in that. He's helped us begin to set up a platform that we'd like to look at and incorporate in these items. We've worked again very specifically on the utilities to make sure that we're locating everything that we need to locate, all those shutoffs, all the locations, where the sanitary is, where the storm lines are. So the next time we get a water main break at 2 o'clock in the morning, these guys can go out with an iPad, use their fingers to make it larger, click it, we hope in the future, and that valve goes red. We know we shut it off, and then when we're all ready to turn it on, they can click it again when we turn it on. We know that we left the scene with everything back open again, but it just help us with all of those items. So a part of that is also, as you see here, it actually came in a little bit smaller, but it is an actual program. And Nick actually did this prototype for us, where it can be a program that we would interface with residents, and they'd have the opportunity to come on. They can use their phone and use their GPS. They can take a picture of it, but they'd be able to upload it. We'd have a street, a location, and let us know what problem is happening with that road. I always tell our residents or people when they've escalated the problem up to me, send me a picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words. It's easier to locate the problem, and then it's easier for us to really understand what that concern is, and we can address it a lot quicker and a lot faster. So that program in and of itself, initially starting out, is going to be a total of about $100,000, and that's to purchase it and implement it. And then, of course, we would have software maintenance programs after that. For the final review, we're looking at a street repair crew and materials. If you want to tell us to get started on that sooner, I wouldn't say no. But that's going to be about $450,000. We're going to look at already doing our summer overtime. We spoke to Rhonda. We think we're in good shape. We don't typically see huge dregs of overtime until after the first of the year. But if we would have to come and ask for an appropriation going into November or December because of snowplow coming, you'll at least have some idea of why it's coming on, because we really feel it's important for us to address those roads at this point. Our capital program, again, as I've explained, we'll be looking at a little bit more money there. And then again, we'd really like to upgrade the world work order system. So, and you know what, it'll also help us in-house. Part of our problem with our in-house, I have several directors here, is they can put it in, but they have no idea where their requests are. They can't go back in and check it. They don't know where it is. And even for us to try and find that in there sometimes takes us a little bit of time. So it will clear up those things too. So we're pretty excited with these initiatives. We think they're important to us. We believe that they're important to you. We know it's important to the residents because we have been getting inundated with phone calls here this spring and early summer, and we are desperately trying to get caught up to that. So please let them know, if you do get calls, this is what we're trying to do. We haven't been sitting back. We've been trying to work on this. It's just kind of pushed us to this forefront a little bit sooner than we had anticipated.
Questions? Melissa?
So the software would be better than the text message chain that you get involved with all the time, especially for my ward in particular.
Text messages, phone calls from you guys, that never bothers me 24/7, 365. It's good. We just had another one this weekend. Sometimes that's needed, but I do think that if a resident can get on and then see this, then they would also have the opportunity to see where it is, what's going on with it, where are we? We've also talked about initiatives, if we could get this set up, of maybe working in quadrants in the city, just like we do our spring cleanup. So we would be able to then notify those residents, hey, we have 32 potholes in the north west quadrant. We're going to start on this road and see where we get for 2 weeks. And we'd be able to address those and then maybe move on to another quadrant. So I do think that that interconnectivity and the ability to communicate with our residents just a little bit clearer will be very helpful.
So I have a real question though. There are a lot of laterals, as Bridget was talking about earlier, that need to be repaired, especially in my ward and actually where I live. There's probably been 4 or 5 just on my own street that have needed to be fixed. Is there a way for us to look at coordinating that, giving residents an opportunity to fix some of those laterals? Because otherwise you guys have to go back and you have to do that street repair that the residents have to pay for. Is there some way that maybe the software and putting some thought into, in particular, those neighborhoods that really have the problems with the laterals like we do in some of the older neighborhoods?
I think it's a great point, and I don't know all the ins and outs with this new software. You're just going to get set up here real soon.
So there's a water sewer lines connections from the house to the street. Residents are responsible for that. I live in the ward where our houses are 100, 115 years old, and a lot of them, they need to be replaced. And so whenever it needs to be replaced, it has to go into the street, not just on the resident's property, and then it needs to be repaired. And so having a way to coordinate or have the opportunity, because not every resident's going to be able to afford it, and Bridget doesn't have enough money for all of us, Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then the communication with residents, right? Especially if we're gonna do, like our street, we don't have any curbs. We need to, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Is there a way to like communicate through the software so that we can let residents know that this project is coming? So if they have laterals or whatever that need to be fixed, they could do it prior to the bigger project.
So that would be something more on that capital side.
Okay.
But that is certainly something that we can look into. I know that Jim has always been very good to make sure that they're out there notifying people and making sure that they're aware of the work that we're doing. So,
And here he comes.
yeah, I was going to say, Jim.
So before we do a street with the street and sidewalk program, there's a letter that goes out informing the residents that the work's going to be done in the next 9 to 12 months. Usually it's associated with the concrete repairs.
Mhm.
So then they would find out, and if they wanted to plan their replacement prior to that, then we would go through, they would do their replacement, leave it in gravel, then we would go through, finish the street, pave it down.
So there could be a potential savings to residents if we did it that way. And so the only reason I bring this up is it's a really important project. It sounds very detail oriented, but we have really old systems and some of them are being repaired right now. If you fix a road and then a resident has to, and this resident, and then you've just completely ripped up the road.
What I'm trying to say, they get that notice already, and if they could reach out to us, we would work with them without a doubt to minimize the effort to the community. And they're part of the community.
Right, right. And just reiterating that the tools are taking this into consideration, that both the planning and the tools that we're choosing will make this easier for residents and for your team to be able to collaborate on such an important and expensive project.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
It kind of reminds me, Jim, of, Melanie, I think you were in some of the meetings too. So it's always really tricky for the city to get particularly involved in private property work, right? Stormwater in backyards, laterals. But I will also say, I think we all agree, like logistically, what you say makes total sense. And if there's a way to facilitate better coordination of that, the question is how. But it did kind of remind me of, I don't know how successful it was. Remember Hudson sort of started venturing into stormwater on private property. In like, because if stormwater doesn't stop at your property, it flows downhill, and the next one, and the next one, and that's a similar argument. Like, well, couldn't the city help coordinate all that? Hudson took it pretty far, where they were actually getting a contractor to do work. I know in one of my former cities, we had a similar older neighborhood, and I feel like once we got through the law department, that we were able to almost like have how we did it, because it was tricky with the legal side. Here's a contractor, a sewer contractor that's going to be, that the city's help line up somehow in advance of our work. And why don't you go ahead and call them if you think you need sewer work between now and the 12 months when we're going to be in doing that. It's tricky. I don't know how it works, if it's workable, but I think that's the kind of things that you're thinking, like, could we do more of that?
Yeah, so we do. When we're doing any capital project in an area, and some of the more prominent ones are a little easier to let that coordination happens. But the example is when we did North Water Street, which is in essence was resurfacing and concrete work and sidewalk work. We spoke with every property owner along the corridor, and each and every they just did remodel their building. They were stuck trying to put a step or a ramp in the right of way. And we said, hey, we're going to come through and replace this sidewalk. So let us come through. And when we put the sidewalk in, we raised it up so they didn't need a step. It didn't cost us anymore. We're already putting the sidewalk in, but it's the coordination, the feedback back and forth. Same with Scribbles and Bentry Coffee. That kind of interaction happens anytime we're doing work. But in part, it's required that the property owner not just come to us, because we're out there already,
but they got to be committed that they're trying to do something. And then we try to basically effectively use all our money efficiently. I mean, it's their money in the end. Let's use it efficiently. Same thing with, I think it was Bentry Coffee, the retaining wall along the property of the alley, which is actually a private wall. However, we were able to wrap it up into the project and get a grant to help pay for it and redo it. So those opportunities, we're always looking for that. Where we get, to be frank, Josh, where it gets problematic is when the residents trying to do the lateral. Say, well, when's the next time you're gonna come through Door Street? Can you do it sooner? We can't follow that. So, but when we're out there doing any work, and whether it's the street sidewalk program or it's one of the larger projects, we're always trying to benefit the residents and the businesses as we go through. Because in the end, if we're gonna put it in, if we can put it in slightly different and benefit them, we're gonna do that. We will always do that. We'll continue to do that. I hope I answered the question.
You did. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Further? Jeff wanted to.
Yeah, I have a question just about our repair process on roads. I'm going to use the one on Crane most recently as an example where that sewer blew up. So the asphalt that was put down now, that was closing in on 3 weeks ago, I think, pretty much washed out. So the holes are back. We haven't fixed it yet. I don't know what needs to be done there still, but is there a reason that we're not using steel plates on our roads? Because I know at Main and 59, it's the same issue. And those holes just reappear and reappear and reappear. And it's a very long time between initial asphalt and the road is finished or is not washing out consistently.
So it's a good question on the steel plates. I'm not quite sure exactly what the answer would be, but my answer would be, it depends on where it is. Wherever we have large tractor trailer traffic, absolutely not.
Well, I could confirm as having worked for the company that makes and delivers those plates that tractor trailers over them all the time.
But they're pinned and asphalted around the edge. If they're not pinned, they're going to move every time you move over them. My old city where I came from, we actually lost 2 cars because it was the middle of the night. We didn't know it was, if you've ever been in Richfield, Brecksville Road, it's a large trucking facility. The trucks had actually moved them and we lost 2 cars in them because we were replacing it. It was about 1.5 feet deep because we didn't see it. They didn't see it until they were in it. So I'm not sure too how many actual steel plates we would have that would actually be able to. I'm assuming it's because our hopes are always that we would get back out there to get it taken care of before it would get to that point.
Right.
But it's a good point, and we can probably start
So-
using those again and pin those.
Because we can't get back out there to fix it before that point, is there anything we can do budget-wise to amend for 2025 to at least sublet some of this work and get a jump on it before this next winter? Because I don't think our crews are going to be able to get all the potholes done before November 1st or whatever.
Absolutely, and we can certainly come up with that number and begin to look at some contractors and see how much it would take. And then remember that we have a bidding limit of 75,000. So if we feel that we're over that, we would have to put together a full-blown bid package on that. But I'd be happy to take a look at that real quickly and just try and come up with some round numbers.
Well, do you agree that our crew probably isn't going to be able to get everything that needs to be done citywide, plus all the potholes and all that before winter? There's probably something we should jump on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roger?
Yeah, I have a few questions. First of all, my question would have to do with, I think there, and I'm guilty of it too, most of the council here. We get really excited every morning with the idea of rebuilding roads. And you do a great job. I mean, all the grants that Jim has been able to secure, we've been working on. But I think what we're really talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're actually saying that what we're talking about is repairing the roads. Yes, so I want to make sure that we're real narrow with that context, because rebuilding and repairing are two distinctly different
Very
things.
different.
The capital program really, correct me if I'm wrong, is really the hallmark in our building.
Yep.
That's
100%.
As I look at the budget for the last 10 years, Rhonda, I don't know if my math is up to this now, but from 2015 to 2024, I'm just looking at table 6, and it's the government funds tax revenue. Okay. It looks like, in this game, I think you already talked about this, the last 3 years, we went 23 million, 28 million, 24 million, something like that, which is the highest 3 years we've ever had. And if I did the math correctly, from 2015, where we were at 19 million to 2025, we've actually increased 19%. If I did my math correctly. So I guess the question I have, Melanie, is that what percentage of the $430,000, what percentage would it be for the personnel, and what percentage could you roughly, what percentage is going to be for materials and equipment?
Sure. So of the 450, roughly 100,000 is going to be for the material and 350 would be for the employees.
Okay, so it's really a personnel intensive effort.
Yes.
But I think there's a very naive understanding out in our community. I don't think they get that. Okay, how much it really costs. And then you add the materials that you you've got to believe that from 2015 to 2024, the cost of asphalt, the cost of have increased more than 19%. Right? Would that be an accurate?
That's fair.
Okay, so my question is, 2 million, is that enough? If we really want to get our roads in the neighborhoods up to snuff, because we're falling, if you look at the percentages, we're falling further and further and further behind every year if we don't do something and move this forward as quickly as we can. I think it's council's responsibility. It's not our city managers, it's not yours, it's the responsibility of the council to fund really the repairing of roads, not rebuilding. We already do a great job with that. Okay, so the question is 2 million enough? And I know Dave is concerned a little bit about being risk taking, and I get that in this economic climate. But if we don't do something dramatic now, we're going to fall further behind every year. So is 2 million enough?
Well, right now, we're trying to put that out there and be conservative to make sure that we're able to prove that we can do what we're saying.
So is 4 million better?
I'm not sure that I'm going to say, well, I'll never say no, right? I mean.
My point was that 4 million, you talk 450,000, know already what our costs of personnel. The equipment and materials are really critical.
Yeah.
Right.
They are. They're very critical. But again, our commitment right now is to get these 3 people and work with what we have to make sure that our efficiency and production be exactly what we're saying it can be. That is. I appreciate it.
Well, Roger took part of my question. So, no, that's fine. I'm glad somebody else is thinking on this board besides you, well, all of us anyhow, because we've all gotten those calls about the roads. What's this program cost? Did I miss it when you said it or you didn't say it?
So on Jim's side, we know that we're between about 1.2 and 1.8 has been the largest that we spent on the capital. Remember, all of this maintenance is taking place within our current operating budget. So we're also fighting for the dollars there because we're also having to do all the other things that we mentioned at the beginning of this. So right now we want to make sure that we're dedicating these 3 people, the $100,000 plus our current budget has 80 in it. We're asking for another 100. So we're going to try and do around $200,000 with 3 new people and be committed to making sure that we're doing the best that we can to take care of the roads on that interim until poor Jim can get back there 40 years later to make sure that that road can be resurfaced.
Maybe I missed it. What is the cost of the program itself? Not buying equipment, that program, the IT part of this.
Oh, the software program?
Yeah.
Oh, it was $100,000 for the first year. That included implementation, purchasing the program, and our licenses. And then after that, there are license fees that follow annually as well. So that first initial chunk will be $100,000.
100,000. Okay. My other question is, not to take away from what we were talking about before, the fiber optic company is doing all the damage to the west side, and Jack and we get calls daily about that. Who is reaching out to them, the responsibility to fix these streets that they're ruining?
I love Bridget, and thank God she's here because she's the person that makes those contacts.
basically they that they do, but not prohibit them. Operating. The state of Ohio General Assembly authorized police to come in, because the authority to limit so many commit. And we learned just last week, it's Connolly Fiber is coming through where MetroNet went, which is basically that northwest quadrant. And I'm like, why would they be coming? There's already one that went through. Why would they be digging up the same area again? And we were told it's because it's not houses that tie into the fiber, it's houses that. That's who, basically all the big Verizon and any of the big providers, is the number of houses passed. So that's why we're doing what they're doing. Whenever we get very just as frustrated as anyone else, we do pull the permit actually. Every time we pull their permit, they have come up with procedures and protocols. We can't permanently pull the permit. So we are doing the best we can there within the confines of what the state has given us. But they do pay for the damage. They are very calculated those costs, which also takes very time. And then we make them pay for it.
Is there a time schedule for that? Just one thing, I know Jack and Jess and Melissa, that intersection of Pearl or Prospect Street and Park Avenue, it's like there was a war that happened there. The holes are so bad. I don't know, just a question. I get these calls all the time.
Heidi?
Thanks. One comment first, then I'll ask my question. The comment is, for the audience that is watching us, it's really helpful if we have a microphone for everybody that speaks. So maybe a handheld microphone we can pass around if people don't want to keep jogging up to the podium. All right. So I want to piggyback on Roger's comment about what's too much, what's enough, what's too much. And looking at the state of the roads, I just want to get us thinking, because this is kind of that exercise. We're just thinking right now. What if we had some kind of concentrated campaign where we did have some additional funding for 1 or 2 years, put out there, really catch up, and then go back to, you know, the crew idea. It's not negating the crew, because I think that plus additional contractors that would, you know, come in and work on some particular jobs. What if we did that instead of just looking at what we're currently doing?
Okay, thank you. The question about how much money's enough is really, you can't just say it's this amount and we're good, everything's fine. Because it's based on the customer, the resident's perception of how good the streets are going to be. So I'll give you an example. It wasn't that long ago. Pavement condition index is used to rate people's community streets, and they've done all over the region by the same company, and you see the score. So if we went to Barberton, their scores would be in the 50s, and their residents would say, these roads need work, okay? And then you'd go into Cuyahoga Falls and it'd be 60, and these roads need work. You'd be in Kent and it was 67, these roads need work. Then you go to Hudson and it's 72, and they're borrowing money because their roads need work. So it's a perception issue. Like, how much, what do you want the level to be? How good do you want it to be? And then how much would it take to get there? Which we've gone through that before. If we presented at the council years ago, you might have been on it. But in the end, I think Dave could jump on this too. Once you get to a certain level, you'll still point to the worst thing, say, that's horrible, that needs to be done. You give the example of the old hotel downtown. You did the downtown, and then the old hotel was fixed. You can't even fix that. It's a never ending pursue. So what you find is you got to find a level that you believe your community is comfortable with, what it can afford relative to all the other things you do, fire and police, the sidewalks, right? How important is the pavement versus everything else, and how much money does your community have? I don't envy your job as you try to weigh those things, but when you ask how much money it takes, it's based on the level of service you're equating to be. And Dave mentioned it. The pavement condition over the last 4 or 5 years has trended down. We haven't been able to keep up with the natural degradation of the pavement. That's just represented in the numbers that we get. Part of it is very simple. I'm not blaming it. We went through COVID and everyone said, tighten the belt, don't spend the money. Well, the roads are still getting worse during that time. You typically lose about 2 to 3 points in your PCI every year. And the way you overcome it is by fixing streets, by repairing streets, crack sealing potholes. All that stuff helps lift it back up. Okay, so as you debate this and as you think about this over the time, you have to sort of ask yourself, do we want our pavement better? Do we want our sidewalks better? Do we want better fire service? Just, sorry, that was trying to answer your questions in that regard.
Mr. Chair, can I respond? Exactly right, right? Perception is really important. And if the perception in this community right now is that the roads are continuing to deteriorate at a more rapid rate, and if we keep blaming our service department, if we keep blaming people, okay, they're never going to get any better unless we really look at what it's going to cost. If you have a leaky pipe in your house and you keep trying to put tape over it and you don't pay the bucks, okay, and you know me, I'm Dave, you know I'm more fiscally conservative than most people would think. But the fact of the matter is that our crews, our service department needs more to keep up with it, to at least develop a perception that we take it seriously. And I know we do, but you don't have enough people. You don't have enough people, you don't have enough materials, you don't have enough equipment to keep up with it, because you'll never get it all perfect. I mean, no one has perfect roads anywhere. But if the perception and I have to say, I can only speak for my 12 years on console, has always been, we keep falling further and further behind. The calls keep increasing exponentially every year. And then I go out and I drive around these roads and you guys know I do that because you know what I used to do. So I go out there and I'm going, no, I think I'm pretty objective that we're getting more roads that are deteriorating faster than our guys can get them fixed because they don't have the resources. It's that simple. So I know the asking how much is enough was not a fair question, but the point I was trying to make was that what we're doing right now is not enough. Okay. And so we got to change that perception in a way, and I hate to say this, we have to throw money at it. We got to get some people out there to do it. Oh, okay. No, that's it. I was just responding.
I could say amen to that, Roger.
Sorry.
I just have a quick question. If you're anticipating seeing cuts from the state or federal budgets coming in.
Need anything locally or at the state level at this point. Again, we survive on the gas taxes. Those are the things that come in and pay for us. And I've not heard that any of that's going to change.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, that is good to know.
I'll take it. And then have you identified anything that was a priority in the past that maybe no longer is cost efficient that we could trim in order to divert resources over to it? I know it's probably an obvious question, but.
There's a lot of things that we internally have discussed, but I think that when we look at the whole of the city, it may not be a top priority for us, but it is for others.
I'm just saying, like leaf pickup. Do we need to go suck up the leaves from all the houses?
But again,
I'm just saying, I haven't talked to anybody that wants to pay more in taxes to fill their potholes, but they somehow want the city to generate more money from somewhere that isn't taxes. And at some point, there are programs that we have in place that maybe we need to reprioritize if they're no longer it. I know it's unpopular, but it's the truth because things are significantly more expensive in terms of labor, health insurance, and things like that. The cost for a single person who could repair a pothole pre-COVID is completely different now than it was. And I don't think we're doing a service to the community by pretending that that's not real, that we don't live in a current economic climate that's really tumultuous. So cuts are going to be on the table. So maybe brainstorming or soliciting ideas from other departments as well about things.
Don't let this get out to my crew. So.
I know, I'm sorry. Did I touch?
Let the anarchy
Did I hit a nerve with the leaf? Did I hit a nerve with the leaf sucking up, because people really do seem to love it, but.
So while it also provides some importance to us too, we need to keep our storm sewers clean. And when everybody pushes their leaves out into the street, it goes directly into our storm sewers. Again, hats off to Brad and Gary, who over the last few years, not few years, but in 9 years that we've been here, we've been able to come and purchase.
I know you went from, it used to be 2 people operated it down to 1. I know it was a huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Savings.
So
Yeah,
we
that's
do
great.
always try and do those things so that, again, we're more efficient, better with our money and able to make things go farther. So
Oh, I don't
it's a
doubt
great
that. I don't doubt that. And I've seen it in practice. I'm just wondering if as a council, if other departments, if we're looking for more money for potholes, if maybe that money should,
Sure.
tighten the belt in other areas. It's just a comment and a question. Thank you.
Chris?
I just wanted, before we jump, I'm sorry. That was kind of, both Roger and Gwen, I appreciate kind of where you're taking that thing. And those are exactly kind of thoughts that we go through internally, right? And what's the right number? What's the right level? And I thought Jim did a great job of kind of setting that same context. What I would say is our approach to this is trying to recognize multiple areas in the department, in the city, that we think are equally important. That's what each month we're coming to you. So tonight we're talking about streets, but then we're going to talk about fire department. We're going to talk about, we started the meeting with the fire department talking about rescues. We see how important that is. They are understaffed. Police department, understaffed. Do you risk public safety? At what point are you becoming, and what we're proposing, I suppose you could take it to the furthest, and if you did Rogers 2 million, then you're right, Gwen, we need to raise more money. I think for the most part, what we're trying to put these in bundles, bite-sized bundles that we think we can afford without having to raise taxes. And give us that, is it enough to, and Melanie was the first thing out of her mouth was, what expectations are we setting? You expect me to get every street in perfect condition if you give me this crew? And I'm like, no, but we're going to demonstrate everything you said. We're demonstrating the commitment. This has never been done before. We've never had a crew designated to streets that sends an important message to the community. It says, this matters to us. We recognize it and we're going to do a better job of it. It's going to cost a little more, but we can afford it because of the other strategies that we had in place. We're not asking you for more money. We're not taking away any services. We're doing it based on the economic success we've had. And that's the good news in the story. It's still stressful to spend more money and add people, always is. So we're giving it to you in bite-sized bundles. It may be after next year, she goes back and says, 3 was perfect. Or she says 3 was 1/3 of what we need, Roger. I need 3 more 3s. But at least this way we get a foot in, we start it. It's a more transparent commitment, clear commitment, and we can watch how they perform all year long, and we can have a better conversation next year. Because now we're like, I don't know, is it 1 million? Is it 500? Is it 2? It could be all of the above. We'll know a lot more after a year if you end up supporting that. Sorry.
Chris, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. Thanks, Melanie.
You're talking about a program that's going to come online to allow people to take photos of potholes connected to GIS data. There's a system that exists already. Is that right? Right. I've myself have filed something in that system, which I think it allowed me to put an address in a basic paragraph about.
GovQA.
Yeah. When I've seen a sidewalk covered in grass or something, Okay. So my question is about responsiveness, and I had a resident get upset this year. He reported a pothole, I think, on Rhodes Road, one of 176 apparently, and he didn't get a response. And well, according to him, I didn't see his email. Maybe he missed it. I think. I think it would be very important to ensure, and I think this is what you're saying, but that this system does have that kind of client responsiveness built in from the beginning. I think there's nothing more demoralizing than trying to make a decent effort to try to improve your city if you're a resident, and then kind of get a brick wall. And I'm not saying this is an epidemic, and it sounds like it's not. This might just be this one resident's email slip through. I guess how are you thinking about this system, in terms of the responsiveness, in terms of, ideally the resident is thank you for your comment, we'll get back to you. The resident hears the story of what we're implementing. The resident hears the work was completed. Is that how you're thinking about it? Or maybe you can talk more about that.
Sure. Again, I have not seen the demonstration yet, so
okay.
Nick can talk a little bit more about that. But my anticipation and what I'd like to see of it is that once we get that, something is being automatically generated saying, thank you for your email. We'll look into this and we'll get back to you. And then it needs to be sent to the proper person. And that's where, again, as we're learning, making sure that you have those things set up so that it's going to somebody that can physically answer that. GovQA right now comes into one person in my office who has to try and triage everything that comes through. And yeah, it is possible that maybe one's gotten lost, or it gets to that person who's gotten 70 emails that day too. It's not an excuse, but that does happen, and I apologize for that. But that would be what I would want. And then the person that receives that should look into it immediately. Immediately being, you need to take a look at it that day, within that next day, and then respond back. Even if it's, we've had a chance to look at it, we don't have an answer, but we'll continue to look at it. So that's the process that I'm hoping.
So this actually tags along very nicely with what you heard from Bridget earlier. Much of the foundation work for a lot of these products were put in as an effort of Bridget's implementation system. The same CSS product that you heard about from her, that the community members use to file for permits and plan and reviews and all these different things, is actually the same framework and the same system. So it's one user account. So if a community member wants to submit, a fence permit and report a pothole and do all of these things one place, and then much like they can log in and track the status of their applications within EP&L, they would also be able to log in and track the statuses of any of those concerns that they may have submitted through the system.
That's great to hear. It sounds like the opportunities for this platform are endless, and I'm excited to think about other ways.
The only caveat is, I find when people report a pothole to me, they have an expectation it'll be done within 2 or 3 days. Yeah, so we can track it, we can log it, we can communicate it, but I don't think that eliminates people's frustration, because it's not going to be a week, it might not be 2 weeks, it might not be a month, because there's so many factors. Brad's got to kind of look at it and say, okay, how much traffic's on this street? How bad is it? Is it just isolated, or is it a whole bunch in a row? So it becomes a more complicated decision matrix than just the person who says, I've submitted that pothole. So we appreciate it. I mean, no one in any way is diminishing the frustration with it. I just want to manage expectations. It's like what was said a couple times now. It's never ending. And we'll do our best. I mean, right now, my best is, I'll guarantee you we'll get you on the list, and we will work through that list. And I like their idea of, maybe we do the quadrants like we do with leaf collection, brush collection, and even snow plowing to some extent, where they attack quadrants, so that you'd be like, hey, if you live in this neighborhood and your pothole's on the list, we're going to be in your neighborhood trying to bang these out in that quadrant, for the next month. Or I don't know how that's going to play out. Those are the kind of logistics things that's trying to get to your point, because, man, so I say it because we're all going to hear it. You're going to receive them too. The good news is, yeah, we're going to be better at tracking them, recording them, messaging back to but it may not necessarily mean we're getting them fixed faster until we have the staffing and so forth to do that.
Just to say, you need the people though to do the work.
if I can just editorialize just briefly, I do think setting some expectation with the resident about the amount of time it's going to take. If it's a very serious repair, right? It's just saying that, maybe building some functionality into the website. So it's sort of the response. If it's automated, that this is a significant repair, therefore that is going to be 6 to 8 months, or whatever the case is. Because I do think, I think the frustrating thing is you send the complaint into the ether and it feels like a simple issue. Why isn't the pothole being fixed? And yeah, so I think what you're doing is great, and huge congratulations to you all for this plan. I'm very excited about this.
Other questions? Dave, do you have anything else? Okay. I'm going to go to the audience now. Do you have you have to come to the name and address.
You guys are talking about it. It's something I've worked with in Swagelock and Solon. We had 16 different facilities. Just all over the place. And it's a maintenance program that, I'm going to stress here, is measurable. So you have a resident that logs a complaint about a pothole. Over time, you can start measuring, okay, what did we respond to that? Was there an automatic response sent by the system? Was there, when did we get to the street? When was that pothole repaired? And you can, over time, measure all that. And that way, if a year from now, you'll be like, okay, on average, it took us X amount of days to get to respond to that resident. And also it took us X amount of time to repair that pothole. And you're able to track that through the system, all measurable. But not only that, in the future, you're able to say, oh, that pothole was repaired 4 times in the past 2 years. So was our method of correcting that proper method? And with a system like that, you're able, because like I said, it's been in industry for maintenance for a long time. It seems to be getting around to like cities and government. So what you brought up to me was make sure that it's measurable, because that way then you're able to actually use that data, track it, and be able to respond to it like better in the future.
I'm sorry. Could you just say your name and address into the microphone, please? All public comments require name and address for our records. Thank you.
Randall Frisco.
Address.
1026 Elno Avenue.
Thank you. Our clerk needs it. Thank you.
Further comment from the? That was just informational?
That's it.
Okay, I just
So
want to make sure you didn't have anything more to say.
Oh, you guys gave me enough. But so in closing, I'd just like to say I thank you for the opportunity to bring this to you. But more importantly, do understand that we are here with small chunks. I do realize I have counterparts that need stuff as well. And we're always vying for those same dollars. And that is a difficult spot. I agree with Jim. I don't really want to be in your shoes. But Roger, you asked me how much would it take or how much do I want? If I were Veronica Baruch from Willy Wonka, I want it all. So thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, you can't have it all.
Ron is coming back up. 2026 tax budget.
Okay, so this is now we're requesting permission to pass, approve the 2026 tax budget, which has to get approved by council no later than July 15th. Unfortunately, your next council meeting is July 16th, so it's a day late. So that's the approval, and then we'll have a special committee or a special council meeting after this for the approval.
Just a reminder, this is basically affirmation of the tax rates to the county. We're not changing any of our tax rates. It's an estimate of resources. So this is not your operating budget. For those that are still new enough to not remember this from last year, This is kind of just a step that's, I think, mainly for the estimation of the resources and the tax rates. So all the details of our budget's coming in the months to follow. This is really just something we submit to the county, goes on record, and then we continue our business.
Any questions at all? Seeing none, we had a public hearing about it earlier, correct? Back to council
Move to approve
with,
with the emergency.
I think it's on.
Oh, no. We're not. Yeah, that's right.
Second.
Seconded by Gwen. Discussion? All those in favor? Passed. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to health and public safety, Mr. Amrine.
Yeah, fire department staffing grant application. Chief?
I mean, we seem to be on this topic. This is staffing, but the good news is in this case, he's applying, he's asking for your approval to apply for a grant that would allow us to bring on 3 new firefighters. And it would pay, the grant pays a significant portion of their salaries for 3 years. And then we either absorb that fully then, or we come up with some new tactic at that point. And, you know, it could be if things turned really south, you look at, well, is so-and-so retiring? We're just gonna, you know, let that, and that's how you would balance it out. So that's why we're a little more comfortable kind of, well, we're excited that Jamie's coming with money as opposed to Melanie and the chief over there. They're not coming with anything except the ask. Jamie's coming with the ask and a source of funding for 3 years at least, so.
Yes, thank you, Dave. So essentially, I'm asking for council's permission to apply for a grant. This grant is through the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. The intent of the grant is to provide more full-time firefighters available for communities across the U.S. for emergency response, plain and simple. They understand that for most communities, they're in similar boats where adding operating money to increase their full-time staff is a hurdle. It's a hurdle to get through, know if they can project through those initial years. So they've built a grant paradigm that looks at kind of just blending their finances with the city's finances to ease them in the first 3 years. And then the idea would be the city would absorb 100% of the funding in year 4 through the career. So the actual numbers are a 25-75 cost share. So the federal government, through this grant, 75%, city 25% in years 1 and 2. And then it kind of flip-flops a bit. It becomes a 65-35 share city and FEMA in year 3. And they cover usual costs, which are defined in the grant as salary, benefits, all the main players when it comes to a full-time staff position. This is obviously needed, like many departments, but I'm speaking on behalf of the fire department, and that our call volume increases. And this is a very responsible way and an opportunistic way for us as a city to try to approach dealing with some of those challenges. So this is the window for these grants are always small. This grant has to be submitted this month, actually within the week. We have drafted it up. With your permission, I would like to submit this grant. And then hopefully we are awarded this grant and would be able to allocate those funds for those 3 positions. I will tell you that the turnaround on this is very quick. It says somewhere between August 18th of this year and no later than September 30th, we will know if we've been awarded this grant. So that's very good in terms of budget planning going forward. So with your permission, I would like to submit that grant.
Thanks, Chief. Questions? Heidi?
Yeah, a couple questions.
Sure.
First of all, this sounds kind of familiar, like this is a deja vu or something, like we've had this kind of grant in the past.
We did.
And then we managed to retain the staff, maybe?
We did apply for this grant, and we applied for this grant. Obviously was not the chief. This was back in near the financial crisis of 2008.
Yeah.
We applied for the grant, but of course, things were so tumultuous. By the time they awarded us the grant, the city did not feel they were in the position that they would be able to commit to those obligations. And so they did not accept the grant. So
Okay.
again, I'm thinking that had to be at least 17 years ago.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell now, for sure. because that just kind of got burned in my brain that, yeah, something happened. But this time it's looking a little bit rosier. Second question I have is labor market. Do you think it's going to be feasible for us to be able to find 3 new recruits?
I do think it will be feasible. I shouldn't say the fire department and civil service gave a test earlier this year. We had to replace one of our firefighters that was retiring at the end of his career. We had 38 candidates show up, which was kind of like popping a balloon. When I saw that, I go, 38, are you kidding me? I thought there'd be 138. And the lady administering the test for the company told me cities with twice our population have had 5 to 7 people show up to take a test. She said to me, Jamie, 38 is an outstanding number. We ended up hiring the #1 person on our list. And so I have the remainder of a list that's good for another year and a half. So I would be able to act on this quickly. I think our fire department has a very good reputation, and that bodes well for us when it comes to recruitment of candidates. So I feel good that we would be able to find candidates quickly to fill these spots.
Oh, okay. And you said you already drafted maybe a narrative. I hope you put the water rescue efforts in there.
We include all of we include all of the things.
It helps us stand apart from some others.
Yes. Thank you.
Other questions from council? Anyone from the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve with emergency.
Second.
Comments?
Yeah, I think it's outstanding. Thank you for locating the grant and thank you for pursuing it.
Yep, ditto.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, moving on to, there's nothing in land use, streets and sidewalks, Mr. Sidoti.
Let's see, first up is the North Manaway Street OPWC application. Oh, Big Jim, all right.
Thank you, everyone. We're here to request council's approval to submit for a grant and no interest loan to the Ohio Public Works Commission for the North Manaway Street project that I've been working on for the last couple of years with Dave Eatery, the school district, the Citizens Advisory Committee, and the neighborhood. So the grant portion would be $850,000 and the no interest loan would be $150,000.
Any questions from council? Yes, Heidi.
I assume that this is not all of the funding that we need for this project.
No, it is not. So the total project budget is around 7 million. We've been able to assemble 4.25 so far. And we've also asked for $500,000 earlier from Safe Routes to School and $1 million here. And then we are also looking at other things that will be coming up closer to when the project's ready to submit.
Very good. So this isn't like a drop in the bucket. This is really helping us build the capital that we need.
This is a significant portion of the capital stack necessary for the fund.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? Seeing none, anyone in the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
It's just really exciting the way that we work with these grants and we build them and we're really aggressive in going after this funding. I'm very proud of our city for doing it.
This is fantastic. I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. But this is a fantastic project that incorporates city parks, trails, and a major employer in our city. It's got an economic a driver attached to it. That was a tremendous amount of work and organization. And I think congratulations are due all around for seeing this, and also schools. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention schools too. I mean, it's got parks, economic, the city, schools, Davie, and I know it required an enormous amount of collaboration and a huge amount of effort. Congratulations all around to everybody who worked on it. Thank you for getting us this far. It's exciting.
Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Jim. And it's rebuilding, right? We're rebuilding. Okay, next up, new event permit, longest table. We got Eric and Dominique.
Thank you, Roger. The city has been working with Main Street Kent on an event that Chris brought to our attention called The Longest Table. They're seeking a road closure for the event that's going to take place on Sunday, August 3rd. And I'm going to let Dom talk a little bit about The Longest Table.
Yes, hello everyone. We are proposing to do a brand new event on August 3rd across the Main Street Bridge. This is going to essentially be a big, we're going to do it around dinner time, hopefully, a big dinner with neighbors to connect and see one another in a different light. We're hoping to get about 30 to 60 tables to go across. We might be able to do 2 lines of it, but get a couple hundred people to have dinner. We'll have table leaders, and we hope that some of you will step up and be some of those table leaders and bring people to this event. We will provide tables and chairs, but the table leaders will help coordinate and provide meals or work together to provide meals for your table. We hope people buy food from our businesses downtown, grab drinks from the businesses downtown. The Dora can go over, the bridge is part of the Dora. So this is something new and exciting. Main Street is a big part of it. That's why Heather's here. Poor Heather sat through everything to be here. So thank you, Heather. Also, I really just wanted to say a side note. Brad's not here anymore, but Brad and Gary, they do a lot for us to be able to do these awesome new events. So if you get a chance, give them a high five and tell them thank you. We can't be innovative and things can't be presented to us and try these things without those guys who might not be here at council meetings, but they are doing hard work every day for us. So that's my little soapbox, but yes. So, and thank you again, Chris, for bringing this to our attention. We're really excited for this. This is an international organization that does this. It's been in over 100 communities. You can go online. There's a whole press kit. It's a really cool. It seems very simple, but it's really cool to think about how there's so many people that are in your neighborhoods who might see each other, might wave to each other, but this is a time for them to just come out and sit, like maybe not as intrusive as a more intimate block party, but a bigger block party where people can easily say like, hey, stop by and there's a seat for you. So does anyone have heard? Do I have people?
So just to reiterate, we are seeking council approval with emergency to close Main Street in between, switch my memos around.
Has to be
Between
Water
River
Street,
Street.
Gogler.
Yeah, we're in North Water Street.
All right, any questions from council? Seeing none, anyone from?
I have a question.
Oh, you got Heidi, you got one.
Yeah, so you mentioned a press kit. So I assume you're going to be out, you're going to be pushing this information out to the public.
Yep, I'm actually going to even give you guys this if it gets approved. Save the date that if you want this as a digital way, I can send this out as well. But yeah,
Digital is
this
good.
is about, it's really a grassroots thing that we want people to take initiative of, that Main Street and the city. We're helping hold those emerging leaders in their communities, neighborhoods to a place to gather.
Digital is really good because we can put it on our Facebook pages.
Yep.
Other questions from council? Seeing none, anyone in the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve with emergency.
Second.
Jack, any other comment?
I think it's great.
I just want to thank you guys for the planning, Heather. I think a easy way to describe this is a citywide potluck. And it's not a ticketed event. You can show up. We can bring a Tupperware of watermelon and your leftovers from the day before. And that
what table you can be at, Chris?
Hugely accessible in that way, equitable, and I think it's exciting. Imagine the photos of 100 people dining together on West Main with the sort of the daylight fading away right there in the evening. I think it's going to be beautiful to partake in.
Seeing no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Nice job, you two. All right, last we have a revised event permit, Grill for Good. All
So,
right.
so what did Pete Mahoney do that just made him go last? I mean, we saved him for last, Pete. What does that say?
It's a diversion program. We put Pete last to keep him and us safe. Well, the city has received a special event permit application from Access Point Community Services to hold the Grill for Good event on Saturday, September 13th, 2025. If you recall, this event used to be held by the Jaycees. They have turned it over to Access Point Community Services, who has reimagined it. They've been working with Kent State University to host an event that would coincide with their Parents and Families Appreciation Weekend, for them to have something to do downtown. And just to highlight to the community some of the programs and services offered under their umbrella of services that they provide. So I'm here to seek council approval, for the closure of North Water Street between Main Street and Columbus on September 13th from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. for this event.
Okay, any questions from council? Yes, Melissa.
I don't have a question, but I just love this reimagined. I love that Access Point is getting involved. I love that you're going to be focused on community services and connect with the parents. This is it's a great iteration of an event. So thank you so much.
Other questions from council or comments, I suppose. Go ahead.
Is it still going to be a fundraiser? And just for Access Point or?
Yes, we're putting it on. We're hosting it. We got sponsorships. We got a media sponsor with WNE 97.5. Close to $20,000 in advertising. And Eric said we're tying it in with Kent State University. So we got student organizations and student classes, event planning. The Pacific is working with us to put that out to the student body, to the parents. And again, our goal this year basically is not to lose money, to create the cornerstone that make this a big event. Go from there, we'll have live music. We'll actually go from 12 noon till 7 p.m. with music going from 1 to 7.
But it's going to benefit Access Point. In the past, I know because I worked at Coleman, it was also a fundraiser for Coleman Adult Day, and it was important.
To be honest with you, it wasn't a great fundraiser. I mean, it wasn't a huge fundraiser by any imagination. But what we're looking to do more so is create awareness. Show people how they can volunteer. Show the different services that are available throughout the community. We got Bella House, we have Freedom House, we got Kent Social Services, Pay for Futures right here in Kent, so, and throughout Port Chicago. So we want to create more awareness. Be a fundraiser. Like I said, our goal is not to lose money. We have sponsors that have come on board to help us out.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none from council, anyone in the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve.
Second.
Oh, no, sounds great.
Melissa, anything? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, Mr. Mayor, streets and sidewalks are done.
Okay, we're gonna move into our special council meeting. I have the roll call, please.
Special council meeting. Yeah.
We need a motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need a motion to move into
No, not yet. We got some
regular council.
special council meeting. Roll call.
All right, we're gonna do
Exec session.
executive
first, or
session
no?
first.
What's this?
Does the exec session come after the special council meeting or before?
Either way. I think before.
Exec session is part of the committee, so we didn't go.
Oh, nobody told me.
Okay, I'll call.
What else is new?
I'll call an executive or propose an executive session to discuss possible property acquisition, employee evaluation, and discuss boards, commission, and appointment.
Motion? Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Amrine,
Yes.
Ms. Elka,
Yes.
Mr. Clapper,
Yes.
Mr. De Leon,
Yes.
Mr. Hood,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer Bish,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
We're gonna need larger team.
I don't understand. The property.
Awesome.
We added that, where's that?
We're gonna outgrow our exec session, chambers.
Make a motion to go on.
What's the-
Never mind.
I may be, yes, we're out of executive session.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
back in public session now. There was just, information in an executive session, so we're going to do what? We pass this ordinance now?
We have to adjourn.
We'll adjourn from the committee, and then you will call to order the special council meeting.
All right. That's what we're gonna do.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion,
So moved.
any
Second.
discussion?
It's Roger, I'll second it.
Okay.
No discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Roll call.
You gotta call the new meeting to order.
Oh, we're back in the public session? I said that already, did I not?
No, you're calling the meeting to order.
Calling the meeting to order.
There you go.
Okay.
Getting a confusing night here.
Yes.
Now roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Amrine.
Here.
Ms. Selko.
Here.
Mr. Clapper.
Here.
Mr. De Leon.
Here.
Mr. Hook.
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Here.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish.
Here.
Mr. Sidoti.
Here.
Mr. Turner.
Here. Okay, the purpose of the special council meeting is to motion draft for council standing rule. Oh, I need a motion for council standing rules. We're
So moved.
Second.
second by Chris.
Oh,
All in favor? Any
Aye.
discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now I need a motion for the draft, right?
I read it and then.
Oh, we got, it? Okay. With the court agreed draft number 2025-055.
Draft 2025-055, a resolution adopting the tax budget of the city of Kent, Ohio for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2026, submitting the same to the county auditor and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second, please call the roll for suspension.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes, move adoption.
Second.
Who seconded, Mike? Any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Okay, one thing before we adjourn. Imperative next week, July 9th, we'll have a meeting here at 7 o'clock with the Charter Review Commission. Keep in mind, it's a time that we have to work with this to get to the county by August 6th.
Yes, sir.
So this meeting next week at 7 o'clock here, July 9th, it's imperative that we be here. Okay, that's just informational. We're adjourned.
Council's
Yeah.
meeting, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, they're gonna bring their, they're gonna bring what they said, they're gonna talk about it, and the ones that want
He said.
to go further to the ballot. We'll accept the ones that we don't want to accept, we can accept it.
Jerry.